Hi, my name is Ashley Colon, and today I want to talk about the 5 steps to drug development. The first step is discovery and development. This could be 2 different steps, but it's just mushed together as step 1 for writing purposes. So the very first thing you do is the research realizes that they need a new drug to begin in the laboratory. Researchers begin to realize they need something new to design to stop or reverse the effect of a disease that is now out of control. At this stage, there could be thousands of compounds that could be brought up and thought of. A few promising compounds are selected for further study. The second portion to step 1 is the development phase. Once the promising compounds are selected, the developing portion begins. This is where you conduct experiments to gather information. Information includes like how the drug is absorbed, how you can distribute it, what are the effects, what are the benefits, the mechanisms, what dosage is best way to give the drug to humans, potential side effects that may come about, and the overall effectiveness that will be brought to for this drug. Step 2 is the preclinical research. This is when drugs undergo laboratory and animal testing to answer basic questions on safety. There are 2 different types of ways you could go about for this research. You could go in vitro or in vivo. In vitro is where the work is performed outside of the living organism. In vivo is where the work is done within an entire living organism. These studies are usually not large, they're in small portions, but they do provide detailed information on the dosage and the toxicity levels. These findings are reviewed to see whether or not the drug should be tested in people, whether or not they are safe. Step 3 is clinical research. This step begins when drugs are tested. This step begins when the drugs are tested on people to make sure they are safe and effective. The steps that are needed within this step include designing clinical trials, clinical research phase studies, the investigational new drug process, asking for the FDA assistance, FDA IND review team, and the overall approval for the drug. And step 4 is the FDA review. This is when the FDA review team examines all of the submitted data related to the drug or device and makes a decision whether or not to approve or deny the overall drug. You must submit a new drug application that tells the full detailed story of the drug. This is where you are saying how you thought of this drug, what compounds are in this drug, how the drug are used. This is all being submitted into the FDA so they can go through it, decide whether or not it will actually work. For the last and final step, it's step 5. This is the FDA post-market and safety monitoring. This is the end of the process. This is when the drug is already distributed and now is in use and being monitored to make sure it remains safe throughout public use. These steps include supplemental application. This is whether or not you're going to make any significant changes needs to be approved or denied. The INDS for marketing drugs. This is approval for any further development. If you decide that this is going to be a nasal spray compared to an injection, it needs to be improved. Next is the manufacturer inspections. This is just the routine inspections to make sure the drugs are still being safe, still applied in a safe way. Drug advertising. This is when you see commercials and stuff like that to make sure there's no false or misleading information that could be presented to the people the drugs are going to be supplied to. Next is generic drugs. Once you start creating generic drugs for these drugs being developed, these drugs must be comparable to the discovered brand. There can't be anything that is out of place, like dosage must be the same, compounds are the same. Next is reporting problems. If you find a problem with your drug, by law, you have to submit the problem, you have to bring cause to it. And finally, the active surveillance. This is the constant monitoring to make sure things don't give negative effects in the long run. You can't just surveillance a drug for the first year, because what if something happens 10 years from now as an effect from that drug? And that is the 5 steps to drug development.